This is TechCrunch. Space is an increasingly crowded place thanks to the constant influx of new satellites, and it's only going to get more cramped as the cost to get to orbit drops. Those dynamics have brought attention to startup Northwood Space, which has spent the last few years developing more modern and efficient ground-based communications infrastructure. The startup capitalized on that interest in two ways this week. The Segundo, California-based company announced on Tuesday it has closed a $100 million Series B funding round, led by Washington, D.C.-based firm Washington Harbor Partners, and co-led by Andreessen Horowitz. Founder and CEO Bridget Mendler said on a call with reporters that Northwood has also secured a $49.8 million contract with the U.S. Space Force to help upgrade what's known as the Satellite Control Network, which handles a huge variety of consequential space missions for the government, including tracking and controlling GPS satellites. The funding round and government contract are major milestones for the company, which is just a few years old and only closed its $30 million Series A less than a year ago. But with so much interest in funding space tech, hard tech, and defense tech right now, Mendler says this was an opportunity for her company to grow responsibly and quickly. She said, "Yes, this is happening faster than we thought, two fundraisers in the same year and large sums of capital. But she pointed out that's really what we're ready for from a production standpoint." Mendler also said the fresh capital will help Northwood keep pace with growing demand, marking an inflection point in the business. She said, "We get customers coming to us all the time requiring a ground solution, wanting us to help think through a ground problem with them. And we don't want there to be a resource constraint that blocks us from being able to support that mission. And so the resources were very intentionally brought on at this point to support the missions that are coming forward for us." Part of the attention on Northwood has to do with the fact that what it's doing, making smaller phased array antenna systems meant to support or replace older systems that rely on larger dish antennas, remains novel, especially as a vertically integrated play. But with the volume of data being transmitted to and from satellites likely to keep growing, it is an advantage that Mendler is keen to press. She said, "It's a hard thing to do. It requires a lot of risk, a lot of capital. It requires a lot of diverse skill sets to come together to be able to really wrap your head around the entire ground station problem. And so, yeah, it's a big undertaking for us to take. And our bet is that if we can actually do that, if we can really think about ground holistically under one roof, then that produces a ton of value for the industry, and that's really the right model to have." This pitch has made sense for prospective commercial customers for a while now. Companies like SpaceX and Amazon, which have massive satellite internet networks in the works, build and operate their own ground stations. But capacity is constrained for other players who typically have to rent space from third-party providers that may not always have availability. Right now, Northwood's Portal sites can handle 8 satellite links. By the end of 2027, though, the company expects the next generation of Northwood's ground stations to handle 10 to 12, with the company's overall network capable of communicating with hundreds of satellites. With the Space Force contract, what Northwood is selling has clearly become an attractive option for the government. It's not surprising the newest armed forces branch is starting with the Satellite Control Network, though. In 2023, a Government Accountability Office report noted that the Department of Defense has been aware of capacity issues with the Satellite Control Network since 2011. That report said that satellite users who rely on the SCN and whom the Government Accountability Office interviewed said that this increased demand and resulting limits on system availability could compromise their missions in the future. Recursive Intelligence is a startup building an AI system to design and automatically improve AI chips, and the company has raised $300 million at a $4 billion valuation. The company said Monday the round was led by Lightspeed. Recursive says the system will be able to create its own silicon substrate layer and speed up AI chip improvements. Rinse and repeat to get to AGI, the founders say. The Series A comes just 2 months since the company formally launched with a seed investment led by Sequoia. And according to a report by the New York Times, the company has raised $335 million in total. Recursive was founded by a couple of former Google researchers, and their work on a novel reinforcement learning method for designing chip layouts called AlphaChip has been used in 4 generations of Google's TPU chip. DST Global, NVIDIA's venture capital arm Inventures, Felicis Ventures, 49 Palms Ventures, and Radical AI are also investors in the company. Recursive, spelled R-I-C-U-R-S-I-V-E, is not to be confused with the similarly named startup Recursive, spelled R-E-C-U-R-S-I-V-E, reportedly founded by well-known natural language processing neural networks researcher Richard Socher. That Recursive is also in talks to raise a giant round at a $4 billion valuation. That's according to a Bloomberg report last week. And it is also working on AI systems that improve themselves. And these 2 companies are not the only new startups working on the concept. As TechCrunch previously reported, Naveen Rao's new AI hardware startup named Unconventional AI is also working on an intelligent substrate. In December, that company raised a $475 million seed round at a $4.5 billion valuation led by Andreessen Horowitz and Lightspeed Ventures, with participation from Lux Capital and DCVC. That's it from TechCrunch. For more stories like these, go to TechCrunch.com.